where to begin. Let's begin with Warner Brothers' second bite at the apple, if you will, with The Suicide Squad, Ryan. The Suicide Squad. Not Suicide Squad. Not the Ayers cut, and I'm going to call it that, just really to piss him off. This one, James Gunn, following his departure from Marvel, got scooped up by DC and said, make us a Guardians of the Galaxy. And now he's going to go back and make Guardians of the Galaxy 3, apparently, for Marvel, because they made up. But he decided to make the Suicide Squad. The first one, refresh my memory, Ryan. How did you feel about the first Suicide Squad?
It was terrible.
Okay. There's not a lot of nuance there.
Well, no, I mean, I believe I referred to it, or the general gist of it was evil made boring again.
Evil made boring again. I don't think you used that here, but I like it. That's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, it was just, I mean, if you're going to make a movie about bad people who are forced in a way to do something good, that doesn't change the fact that they're bad. People.
Right.
Anyway, and so there's it seemed to be lacking in fun. Now,
yes.
Whose fault is that? Well, I don't know.
We can theorize and extrapolate about Warner Brothers' involvement and Zack Snyder's ultra dark that led them to try to go light.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, first, who cares at this point?
Right. It was bad.
And here's, although I did find this really interesting, as far as box office goes,
okay,
Guardians of the Galaxy only earned, I think, around 20 million more than Suicide Squad.
Really?
But history tells a completely different story.
Yes, it does.
One is a success and the other is a failure.
Colossal.
Which I think is hilarious because, like I said, they both made over $750 million.
Right.
They probably cost a similar. And in fact, the original Suicide Squad made more money than the Justice League movie. So, I mean, there are all sorts of things about how Suicide Squad is perceived.
Yeah. But
versus how it actually did in the ways that most people, like, studio head people care about.
Right. That is hilarious.
Anyway, sorry.
That was a refresher on our first one. On the first one.
It's still, I think, the fourth place as far as all the DC movies go.
In dead last
in box office.
In box office. Okay.
It's it's number 4, in the all-time box office.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, so
so this time we get James Gunn.
Yes.
Who gives us a bit. Okay. Let's back up a little bit. The one good thing that came out of the original Suicide Squad was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn.
But she's not the only one that they bring back for this.
No. Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
Now, Harley Quinn then went on to make her own movie, Birds of Prey, or The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, or just Birds of Prey, or Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, or whatever they wanted to brand it to try to recover it at the box office.
It did
because it hit early pre-pandemic lockdown.
Yeah.
But late freedom. And it wasn't that good.
I don't know. I kind of preferred it to a lot of stuff.
To a lot of stuff, yes, but it wasn't that. It wasn't what they wanted it to be.
Or
maybe it was what they wanted it to be, and I just didn't think. I mean, like I said, there were parts of it that I loved, but that's a separate argument. There were parts of that film that I really did love, but she was the one good thing to come out of the first Suicide Squad. They do bring her back.
The one thing that everyone could agree on really.
Right. There you go. That was like the one universal takeaway. They bring her back. And, of course, Viola Davis as the evil, terrible, no good Amanda Waller.
Which again, I think to a lesser degree, everyone agreed was just fine.
Oh yeah, she's just evil incarnate. And they do. So when the movie started, or before the movie started, I was musing to myself: were people actually clamoring for Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang to return? But return he did.
Well, I mean. Yeah, look, I think what's interesting here is the Suicide Squad is not attempting to erase Suicide Squad.
No, it is a sequel.
It is comfortably fit, or it fits comfortably within, as a sequel.
Yes.
I think in a way the one thing they got right is they didn't go with massive name stars playing, characters that a lot of people don't even know. I mean,
right.
they went with more of a genre cast rather than a Will Smith or whoever. People that were respected within the genre. A lot of who had worked with Mr. Gunn on one of his other projects, or some of his other projects, or all of his other projects.
Right.
So I think the approach was more low key on this one, which I think it helps. What I love, because it allows these characters to be disposable, and there's actually something really refreshing about a movie about quote unquote super villains,
right?
Who
or just villains.
Well,
some of them aren't even super.
I would say most of them aren't super, because if they were super, they would have broken out of prison.
This is true.
And that's and so I love the fact that this is kind of the best of what they've got to work with.
Right.
And I like that aspect to this film a lot more than I guess it feels more desperate.
James Gunn, he establishes that early on. The first film they killed poor Adam Beach right out the gate, basically, in the first film, to prove that Amanda Waller was serious about killing you if you didn't do what she wanted you to do.
Yeah, but
in this film, James Gunn he makes it perfectly clear.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody is safe. I mean, you could guess like 2 in the entire film are going to be safe. Or one, really. There's only one person that is going to come out of this film. And that is the aforementioned Harley Quinn. But after that, he establishes early on, nobody is off limits. So let's talk for a minute. John Cena, Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion, Jai Courtney, Pete Davidson, who they made a big deal out of that. Sean Gunn as Weasel.
Yeah.
Who is, I mean, but then you get into names that most people don't know.
We've got at least 5 more characters. Come on.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Idris Elba, Joel Kinnaman.
Yep, there we go.
So,
Joel is returning from the first one
as Colonel Rick Flag. You betcha. Yeah. Sans Enchantress, or Judy Moon. But so a lot of people, I'll just say, a lot of people die at the beginning. And it is established that you can die in this film.
In all sorts of ways.
In all sorts of creative and, let's remind, R-rated ways.
Very R-rated.
This is an R-rated film.
This is an R-rated film that likes to remind you that it's an R-rated.
That is
film.
an R-rated at every opportunity.
I mean, I would say so. This is Deadpool.
Sort of Deadpool level violence.
Yes. Splatterfest.
Okay, let's just compare the violence levels. Yes. Let's not compare Deadpool to this yet.
All right.
So knowing that the bar was set so low
yeah.
with Suicide Squad, clearly I think we are both going to agree that this is better than that.
Yes.
Now let's go ahead and argue about how much or much not it is better than the original one. From your tone, I'm guessing that you might be higher on this film than I am.
I don't know.
I didn't say you were ecstatic and exuberant.
Okay.
I said you might be higher on this film than I am.
That may be.
So before I make this first comment, let me reiterate that Marvel fired James Gunn, who was then immediately poached by DC and was given this film.
Yes.
He has since been hired back by Marvel. So everyone's on the same page. We all know this. However, this film is clearly a huge middle finger to Marvel.
Yes, to an extent.
Yes. But because he basically took all of the character tropes from Guardians and transplanted them, or character types, I should say, and transplanted them to this. And then I think found DC people to fill those roles that either directly or he could tweak a little bit, like Polka Dot Man and whatnot, that he could tweak. My joke when it was first announced he was going to direct this was that, and he cast it with Dave Bautista, Chris Pratt. So he was just going to move the whole cast over. And in a way he did. He just took the characters and kind of transplanted them. And then some of them, he may or may not blow their faces off or cut them in half or whatever. But there's just, man, he just was given absolute free reign by Warner Brothers on this. And I don't know if you agree with that assessment of it. Do you think Warner just said go?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, because I mean, here's the thing: when Suicide Squad came out, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy is what made Warner Brothers want Suicide Squad to be something that it hadn't been made to be.
Yes.
And so I think basically Warner Brothers probably their pitch, and they were look, and when the instant he gets dropped by Marvel, I mean, it was a matter of days.
Yeah.
Before he was, sitting in the director's chair writing, the next Suicide Squad film.
Yep.
So don't think that DC didn't scoop him up in the same, I mean, their motivation was, well, if you're not going to use him, we'll use him.
Well, smart business choice.
It is a very smart business choice.
I have no problem with that. I'm not debating the logic of that.
So, yes, I think Warner Brothers probably went to James Gunn and said, hey, we noticed you just got, let go from this other project you're working on. We don't think you were, treated fairly. Why don't you come over and hang out with us? We'll let you do, what do you think about maybe doing the Suicide Squad? And we'll give you pretty much free reign. We just, we'd like it to be like Guardians, but maybe R-rated. Let's push it a little bit. And knowing Mr. Gunn's background, which was at one point he worked for Troma, and he's no stranger to gore. Let's put it that way.
He's not R averse.
So I think that they probably, that was the pitch.
Do you think
whatever
do you
you
think
want.
they do you think that they said make it R, or do you think he wrote the script and said and it's probably going to be R and then they said okay?
I think that he probably said, okay, well, I want to do this, or I want to make, how we're going to make this different is I'm going to do a lot of stuff in this that I couldn't do in the other.
Yes,
And
because Marvel's PG-13 diktat.
Yes, at the time, and
Right.
that will stick for for
So
Guardians.
at least Deadpool 3.
Well, no, and I mean, I think it will even, I mean, Deadpool 3 may, get an R rating, but I think that it exists in kind of a side pocket of the universe. I don't think you'll ever see the major. You won't see
The sacred timeline will not be R rated.
Correct. The supplemental stuff, maybe, but the core of it, no. Anyway, but yeah, I think that was part of the pitch from the very beginning. We'll let you do pretty much anything you want, get the cast that you want, bring all your friends over,
right?
Because he has a lot of friends, and let's make this movie. And I don't know how much they dictated what the movie was going to be like, or if they did any at all. But I do think, he was probably pretty upset that, basically, Marvel kind of sold him down the river based on things that they were probably already aware of.
Yeah, that's.
So there, I mean, there's we could go into that another time.
That's separate.
That's entire thing. But yeah, no, I think, but so yes, is there anger in the script? I think there probably is. Even if it's intentional, I think there is. I think it would be hard to argue that, there isn't.
Yeah.
I do think that the film is radically different in a lot of ways to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
In a numerous amount of ways. Simply, if no other, it takes place on Earth.
Right.
We're not dealing with a galactic sort of thing, although we do have a starfish.
Right.
Starfish. I would say that this movie is more absurd than Guardians ever was. I mean, we're way past a talking tree and a talking raccoon.
Right.
I mean, this takes that silliness and ups it,
because Weasel doesn't even talk.
Oh, Weasel's Weasel.
Yeah. Don't let's not spoil anything.
But don't worry, he's not dangerous. He's just killed 27 kids.
Right. But we're mostly past that. Okay, so we've commented, and it has been commented on by a lot of people, that Warner Brothers was way controlling in terms of some of their previous movies.
Well, they've gone in both directions, and that's part of the problem.
Well, that's what I was going to say. On this one, I feel like they overcorrected from the first Justice League and the first Suicide Squad. I feel like they swung back to that, Nolan-esque level of control where they just let James Gunn go.
And I would say the difference thing about this would be that maybe James Gunn had earned that. And I'm not saying David Ayer in a way he wasn't an accomplished filmmaker or whatnot.
Right.
I just thought he was an odd fit to begin with. His vision was never going to
mesh with their
yeah. Anyway, and maybe it did at a time. I don't know the behind the scenes, but I think Warner Brothers wanted to make a film that was James Gunn's film. I hope that they had learned at this point that the more they meddle, the more in trouble they get, because they become the bad guy. Even if it's not their fault, they're perceived as the bad guy.
Right.
There's no way Warner Brothers can win in a situation where the director says, wasn't how I wrote it. It was taken away from me. They made it. And people pick up on that more now. There have been instances of that throughout history, but cinematic history. But I mean, we're very conscious of it now because, lo and behold, the directors just come out and tell us.
Right, which again is insane. But but no, my point leading into that is that I feel like Warner needed to exercise a little more. There's a happy medium for studio. I don't want to say oversight, but involvement maybe. You know, you don't have to take it from David Ayer and have however many different people recut your film, but you also don't necessarily have to just go, yep, whatever you want.
Well, I think that they're in the position where they almost had to. You want James Gunn to come do this movie? I'm not saying it's what they should have done.
Okay.
But I think that they were in a position where they had to.
They had to let the creative force
do whatever he pretty much wanted. Otherwise, they probably don't get him.
Right.
Because it's not as if filmmakers talk. Mm-hmm. And don't think for a second that James Gunn hasn't had conversations with Zack Snyder or David Ayer at some point
let's be clear, Zack Snyder's a producer.
Yes, on this. He's still on this. So I think at some point, well, I know for a fact that the directors talk, or they'll be like, hey, you might not want to dip your toe in that. This is my experience or whatnot.
Look out for this. This is what this means. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm sure it happens. I'm sure it happens in every industry. Even
if it's indirect, that information will get back. Well, I was talking to Zach, and he said, this experience was, it started off great, and it turned into horrible. And, it's like any interconnected job.
Yep. Water cooler talk.
Everyone talks at some point, and everyone has an opinion. And so, I can guarantee you, Zach was very aware, that James was very aware of kind of what was, the difficulties that people have run into, and he was not going to sign on if they did that.
Right.
Again, this is me just guessing, but knowing, I don't know why he would do it unless he was so angry at Marvel. He said, I'll do whatever you want. And I don't think that's what happened here.
No, honestly, and that's my issue with this film is that he never, the film plays like he never once said, should I or shouldn't I? It's just, he was like, whatever he decided, it was like first draft, clean up the grammar and then go. And whatever level of whatever was what was on the page was what he decided to go with. And he turns it all the way up, and it's never dialed down ever.
Completely true.
It's every possible outcome you could every possible situation you could either guess. You could guess the level of dialogue or comment or the level of action that was about to happen. There was never, and it was always the worst way to go in terms of you know what I mean? It's hard to explain. It's too much of what it is.
It's gleefully R-rated for the sake of being R-rated.
Yes. But and you know me, I don't have a problem with any of that. But just as a guy sitting down at the theater, it's a comic book movie, and he made a movie that is like a comic book. But this is like that dark indie version of the comic book that they're making because they can, not necessarily because it serves some grander narrative purpose.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. I think they basically, I think what we've learned is Guardians of the Galaxy is James Gunn working within parameters, and the Suicide Squad is James Gunn left to his own devices.
Yeah, the parameters being how much film do I have, and what can that, and he shot it, and that's what he did, because there's no way that you cut this movie to not be an R.
Oh no, absolutely.
It literally cannot be done. It didn't cross into R and then stay R like Deadpool did. This thing was like, we're R rated, and honestly, I'm actually kind of shocked. I'm wondering if there's not an NC-17 cut.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Well, there is full frontal nudity.
There is actually full frontal nudity. I had forgotten about that.
There, I mean, yeah. So I mean, there is stuff in here. This is. There is. I mean, you could argue that Guardians of the Galaxy is still a family-friendly film.
Yes, you can.
It is a little dark. There are some jokes in there that are, little risque or however you want to put it. But
Disney has those in their cartoons.
But you can watch, they can watch this film as a family, and you won't be like, I can't believe I brought my kids to this.
Right. Okay. So thank you. Then the next point is, who's the audience for this film that they're hoping to make money off of?
It's adult fanboys. They are
okay.
They
are not going to make enough money.
I don't know.
Just
I have
off
no
of
idea.
That audience.
That might be true. I don't know.
And let's not forget this is also it's going to be on HBO Max.
Yes.
It opens Friday in theaters and on HBO Max on Friday with no extra cost.
Yeah.
It's just on HBO Max. Yeah. Now, if you want to see this, again, you and I are both going to say, go see it in the theater. Because big screen.
It's
big
better.
Action.
Yeah.
It's going to be better. But a lot of people won't. They're going to see it for free on the HBO Max that they already paid for.
Or they got free from AT&T.
Or whomever they get it free from. I get mine free from, I get mine included because I pay Xfinity for HBO. But I'm paying for HBO at least. But again, I would have gone and seen it in the theater, and then if I wanted to, watched it again at home, but I'd have seen it in the theater first. But again, this is not made to make money.
Well, who knows? I honestly don't know. I mean, I think that there is a segment of it's for the older comic book crowd, which I think does exist. But yes, I think you might be right in saying, well, how many of those people are going to go see this movie and
then see it more than once?
Well, and the thing is I don't know that a lot of them are going to see it more than once, because
exactly
like you said, well, they will see it more than once, but they might not pay to see it more than once.
Yes.
And I think I think that is a genuine concern. I think we saw with Black Widow that ultimately a lot of the positives from putting it on streaming and charging extra kind of evaporated. Well, Warner Brothers isn't even doing the charging extra.
Right.
So it's will the film make money? I don't know. I think this weekend it's going to be big, but it's going to be front loaded with all of those you're in my age comic fan guys. Yes.
And some of them will be stupid and take their 12-year-olds.
Well, and there's also the question of, are those people motivated to get out of the house?
Right.
If given the option to watch it at home or in a theater, I know there are a lot of people who will just watch it at home because they're not going for the cinematic experience.
Right.
I mean, if you want to argue about financial aspects of this film, probably not. Nothing's guaranteed here, but it also might be a PR move on their part as well. a way to signal that, hey, whatever you've heard, those are different circumstances. You can come work with us, and we'll,
okay,
allow you to have your vision. So
I can accept that as a possible, but that's a huge investment in future PR.
Yes, it is.
And I'm just like, I don't.
But
I don't know that Warner thinks that far ahead.
But think of the damage control that they've had to do.
Yeah. But what's it going to look like if this film opens at 45 million?
Well, no, yeah,
and then it drops next week to 16 million because it's on HBO Max.
Well, not only that, and then, like I said, I brought up the numbers about the film earlier. We tend to forget that it was a bona fide blockbuster success. I mean,
yeah.
I remember being bewildered, by the numbers as they came in.
Yep.
But, I mean,
it was PG-13.
PG-13, and it made a lot of money.
And it was in full theaters, no other option.
Correct.
So they can, as studios are doing now, they're spinning box office numbers, they're spinning streaming numbers to get to bring the best possible spin on the take. But theoretically, this film, even now, should open at $80 million. And it might.
So. Sure.
And it might. But I think the drop off on it is going to be worse than Black Widow.
It might be, because again, if it's, how much does an HBO Max subscription cost?
Like $7.
Yeah. So
such nonsense.
So given
and again, if you're like me and you have Xfinity and you have been paying for HBO all this time and you haven't been watching HBO Max, you technically have HBO Max.
Yeah.
And you just might not realize it.
Yeah. From a financial standpoint, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense. From an artistic standpoint, it does for where Warner Brothers was. Now, is it gonna work? I don't think James Gunn is in the fold. I feel like it's like when a sports team trades for that guy who's going to be there to the end of the season.
Right.
But then everybody.
This is a one-off.
I think it could be, and I think this is also a situation where James Gunn can't lose.
No, that I agree with.
He suddenly has
agreement.
He has a amount of leverage at Marvel where he can say, well, you guys don't want to, you don't want me to do what I do. I'll just go do what I do somewhere else. And he's already proven that, now, even if this film doesn't do well, I don't think it tarnishes James Gunn at all.
Oh no, he doesn't get hurt at all.
There's no scenario here that I can think of that's really plausible where he, gets the sharp end of the stick, regardless of what happens here. So,
yeah,
he's in a great position.
Yep. So having said all that, and without spoiling any of the film.
Yeah, because there's a lot there's an immense amount of stuff that could be spoiled.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I've been trying to stay away from that.
I know, yeah.
Talking about the film. So the film as a whole got some good action scenes. I like Margot Robbie in this again. Yeah. She might be the best part of this again.
Yeah, well, she's definitely. Well, I mean, it's funny because I think part of the thing about this film is that a lot of the Suicide Squad are purposefully not exactly the most charismatic villains.
Oh, that is true.
So
they are thoroughly unlikable.
There's even. I mean, I have to admit, I was shocked how unlikable Peacemaker is.
Oh my God, he's just a complete douchebag.
And to the point where you're like, but we do need this. I mean, we have to remember they are villains. They may not perceive themselves as villains.
Yeah.
But he, you know, when it comes to, I mean, he's not Peacekeeper.
No,
he's Peacemaker.
Right.
Because
and
that's
it is subtle yet key difference.
Yes, I mean it's his way or the highway.
So I'm gonna put some of these quotes in the write up for this episode, but I don't know if I was quickly perusing the voluminous press materials, where they have these huge chunks for all of the Suicide Squad. All of them, Ryan, and you know what that means. That's a lot.
I do know what that means.
So Idris Elba is Bloodsport, who, by the way, has the most xenomorphic looking mask ever outside of an Alien movie. When he puts his mask on, it looks like a xenomorph, right?
Sure. There's a little bit of that, sure.
And then John Cena is Peacemaker. Idris Elba, and when he's talking about this, I want to read this quote because there's two quotes that I'm going to read, and I think they sum up my thoughts on this film exactly. Idris Elba speaking. He says, Bloodsport and Peacemaker are both vying for top position as leader. And there's a little rivalry that goes on, which is quite funny, and we play it out in different moments. Probably one of my favorite moments in the film, because it's just crazy, is what they do to try to one-up each other. And it just gets worse and worse. And you know what part we're talking about here. Yeah. It is, quote, it is the biggest cinematic dick-swinging competition you've ever seen. And it's funny as hell. True.
Yep. Nailed it.
So, Cena, or again, then after that, the one quote is they're shooting on the beach in the opening sequence. And on the third pass of the beach sequence, James said to John Cena, be like a douchey Captain America. Yes, that is basically how Peacemaker is. He is like a douchey Captain America. And I think in the end, that's part of my problem, is that every character in this film, aside from Harley, is... well, that's not true. Actually, my favorite character is not Harley. She's the best part of the film, again, but she's gone for a lot of the film.
Like, I kind of dig Ratcatcher.
I liked Ratcatcher 2 a lot. I also liked Polka Dot Man much more than I thought I was going to.
Well, absolutely. But he's probably the most messed up.
He is
psychologically
he is damaged. He is a damaged individual. And yet you can see the good person that he could have been. Yeah. Yeah. Was he not so damaged?
Yes.
But no, I totally agree. Ratcatcher 2.
Yeah. I kind of
great.
But here's the thing. These, Ratcatcher 2, and this might be problematic. It's hard to see that character as evil.
Right?
I almost want the Ratcatcher 2 movie.
I almost said Origins, but we established that those are bad movies. You want her solo film?
Because I almost want to see how did
she wind up there?
Well, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this like Les Mis? She stole some bread, or I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
But yes, Polka Dot Man, I think, is interesting and terrifying at the same time.
Yes.
And everyone, when you see the movie, you'll know exactly why we're saying terrifying.
Right. And King Shark is just Groot with a slightly larger vocabulary.
Slightly, yes.
Slightly larger vocabulary than Groot. I said, it's those characters that kind of get moved over.
And he kind of likes to eat everything.
Nom nom.
Yeah.
Nom noms.
Yes.
So no, Ratcatcher 2 was great. Harley, like I said, Harley's, if she'd have been in the movie more, I think she'd have been the best character or my favorite, but she wasn't in the movie enough. But Ratcatcher 2 was in there way more, and I almost forgot about her. But it is an interesting character. It almost lends me to think, depending, and here's my quick aside, when Gunn goes back and does Guardians of the Galaxy 3, depending on where it's set and how he constructs that team, at some point, that Ratcatcher thing, if he's involved with this next character that I'm about to mention, that's where it's going to come from, and that's going to be Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that kind of appeal for Squirrel Girl. That's my aside. No, but yeah, I don't know, man. Where do you fall on a number on this?
I somewhere between a 3.5, so what, like a 6 to 7.
6 to 7. See, I'm not far off. I'm like a 5. It's not without its moments or kind of neat bits, but just overall, I had my face in my hand half the time, just kind of like looking at the screen going, what am I watching? And in the last week, I watched The Green Knight, Annette, and Pig. This is easily, I didn't have any problem watching those films. But this one, I was just, what am I actually watching as a film? It's just, it just did not work for me. And I realize that may or may not be a popular opinion, because there are a lot of glowing reviews, because a lot of people saw this last week.
Yeah.
But I have seen a couple that are not glowing headlines. Like I said, I try not to read reviews, but you see headlines sometimes and you get the headline. And I've seen a couple that are not necessarily positive. So I'll be interested to see the actual audience score.
Well, I think audiences are good. Well, again,
you can think audiences, but then audiences will audience on you.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I guess for me, essentially, I can just say that I think that it's a much better film than what we got before. It's more of what you would expect it to be.
Yep.
So I think ultimately it's a success. Now, how much of a success, I don't know.
Right.
You know, but I think regardless of what happens, I think Warner Brothers is going to feel pretty good about the reset that they just did. And
I think they're going to be okay with the process that they just went through. I don't know if they're going to be happy with the business result or the financial result, not the business. Because again, we talked about some business stuff behind the scenes and PR and reputation. I think the finances are going to be the biggest downside for Warner on this.
Well, but they're already making the Peacemaker series. They're still kind of all in.
Yeah.
And this can serve as an advertisement for the Peacemaker series as well. Although, is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I don't know that I really want to spend more time with that guy.
With the douchey Captain America? No.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I can honestly say that I have no interest in that series whatsoever. So I don't know. We'll let the audience.
Yeah, and, but if they suddenly say Polka Dot Man's in it, maybe I'm interested.
Right? Or Ratcatcher shows up.
Or Ratcatcher too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but they wouldn't be on the same side.
Probably no.
They would be on opposite sides.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But all I know is that whatever they do next, they'll bring back Margot Robbie. They'll bring back Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and and after that, everyone, you're just gonna have to go and see who survives Suicide Squad, and decide whether you're okay with that. I guess.
I don't know. I do like the fact that, lo and behold, it is a Suicide Squad mission.
Yes.
So.
Right.
That's
Oh.
not just
No, they're not just paying lip service like they
Yeah.
did the first time.
No. It
That
really
much
is
is true.
yeah.
If you want a Suicide Squad movie, emphasis on the suicide, yes, might be the movie for you, especially compared to the first one. But again, please, for the love of God, let us know what you thought out there. I am legitimately interested to know what actual paying audiences think of this once the actual word of mouth, because everyone will listen to a critic and go, oh, well, the critic loved it, or oh, the critic hated it, but they're still in the back of their mind, they're going, yeah, but they're critics. And I want to know what the audience members are saying to other audience members. So I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Well, and ultimately the feedback might be the box office.
Right? It'd be interesting to see the difference between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So
just even that across the weekend will be interesting, because if it's even, that's a good sign. And if it goes up, that's a great sign. And if it doesn't, then you have to look at how much. So yeah, interesting. We have a lot more movies to talk about. So now we're finally going to shut up about the Suicide Squad from James Gunn and let you guys decide and tell us what you thought. So until we get back with those, we've got Ryan Reynolds coming in Free Guy. We've got the high dollar earner from Sundance this year hits theaters next week along with Free Guy, called Coda. We are going to be talking about Nicolas Cage in Pig at some point. We're going to be talking about a film that Ryan hasn't seen yet, but I have, that opened the Cannes Film Festival this year, called Annette, with Adam Driver and Marianne Cotillard.
Which actually I really want to see. I wanted to see before.
Oh, you want to see it.
So.
And that's all I'm going to say. You want to see it. And then you're going to want to talk about it. So everyone just be ready for that. That opens this week as well, but we probably won't have our review for it till next week. However, it's coming as well. So till we get to those, stay safe, everyone. Enjoy the rest of what's turning into late summer at this point. And we'll talk to everyone later. But until we do, I'm Mark. That's Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See ya.
Take it easy, everyone.